My God, man, it's freezing cold out here this morning. I don't even know why I came out to do a video, honestly. I'm wearing my wolf hat and my old jacket on top of my long sleeve shirt, which is on my fleece. And I think I'm just starting to slightly warm up. But this is the only place in the house that I can make videos. So that's why I've been out in the garage lately. Sometimes I do them outside or, you know, in the house very rarely, but over the last 6 months or so, we've had more people living with us. My mom came to stay with us because she needed a place to stay, and then my oldest son broke up with his girlfriend and he came to stay with us. He needed a place to stay. So all the rooms in the house are taken. I'm the early riser that wakes up in the morning and has all these thoughts, so I come out in the garage. And this is my zone, you know. So anyway, take me seriously or don't, it doesn't matter. It's kind of hard to with this hat on, I'm sure. I guess it really doesn't matter because I hardly take myself seriously in day-to-day life. Which brings me to the topic of discussion here. And I'm just still waking up, so bear with me. I woke up this morning and I'd had some really weird dreams last night. And this is not the topic of conversation here, but it was just those dreams where everything is just, well, I won't even try to explain it. Anyway, when you get up in the morning after you've had certain types of dreams, you feel like a certain motivation, even if they're not dreams that anything happened in. It's almost like these pattern dreams or searching dreams where you're looking for something, or maybe you just know what you're looking for, but you're just going around and like investigating or whatnot. Like I said, hard to explain. But, you know, I've noticed as I get older, I feel better. I wake up and I feel more ready to go. I mean, I just woke up 10 minutes ago and out here making a video. When I was younger, I'd wake up and it'd take me an hour just to get out of my groggy state and grab my coffee. And I realized over the years that was because, you know, usually because the food I'd been eating, the crap, I like ate Taco Bell at night, or you have a couple beers, or smoke too much weed, all those things can do it. And I don't smoke that much pot anymore. I just take a couple tokes at night, you know, but a couple tokes during the day, but I don't really drink and I don't really eat bad anymore. I still eat junk food sometimes, and when I do, I pay the price in the morning. So, so here I am, and it's morning time. Spent 2.5 minutes talking about morning. Anyway, the question I guess I wanted to tackle today was this. Somebody, a subscriber had asked me yesterday, and it's something that stuck in my mind, and this is often how I figure out my subjects for the day. Whatever question is present in my mind when I get up that somebody may have asked me. And yesterday I got one of my subscribers said that I seem to have a certain reverence for society. And he said, since society is so in decay and seems to be falling apart, or seems to be a negative thing to a lot of people, why do I see society as such a positive thing? And I wanted to address that because I think it's really important, because I do see society as, I'm not going to say a positive thing, because a positive thing infers that there's a negativity. Society just is, okay? It's not positive or negative. I guess I have to go a little bit into depth to kind of explain where I'm coming from here. It's easy to drive down the street, riding in your car, and let's say you pass an accident, and then you pass somebody who is getting out of their car and, let's say, road raging against someone and screaming at them. And it's easy to stop and look at the other person in your car and say, man, people are fucked up. Sorry about the language there. But, you know, it's really easy to pick out those two people who are fighting among 10,000 of cars who are driving normal, and to say, wow, people are really messed up, they can't handle themselves. In other words, starting off using road rage as an example, there's very few cases of actual road rage compared to the actual cars on the road. There are a lot of people out there who are, let's say, killers, you know, or murderers, serial killers, psychopaths. The truth is they're less than 1%. Way less than 1% if you want to talk about serial killers, obviously. But there are going to be some mental issues with people which are going to cause people to do extreme things and that those extreme things can outweigh the good of many others if people are willing to see it that way, and they shouldn't see it that way. In other words, a lot of folks want to throw in the towel on society merely because they don't understand it, because it seems like we've gone too far, because it seems like we've evolved too much technology. And I know this mindset of looking at the world and saying, look at this, look at what we've done, we've destroyed our planet. You know, I spent 20 years of my life thinking that, saying, look at humans, we're a scourge, we're a virus, we're you know, a pestilence upon this planet. And I really firmly thought that. And I sat back one day and I said, you know, why are you calling yourself a disease? You know, oh, well, not me. No, that's the rest of society. Come on, Josh, be realistic. And then I realized that I was part of the scourge too. That if I was out truthing and telling everybody about the problems, I was part of the scourge. That if I was involved in the negative aspects, I was part of the problem. Now, this doesn't mean that you ignore the negative side of society. There are some bad things going on. I mean, it's not often our fault. Sometimes it's circumstantial. For example, in today's world, we live in many different places, many different cultures. And if a drought moves in and a group of people have to migrate, well, there's not a lot of places left to migrate, so it becomes a migrant crisis. And right now we're on the precipice of seeing some major shit happen in this world, in my belief. And I think it's really important now than ever to respect and understand society so we don't give it away to this notion that if we give up on society, then somehow we will pull our heads out of our asses and we'll be in the clear. That if we just abandon these cities, abandon money, and go back to the old way of living, that we'll be okay. And it just doesn't work that way. There's 7 billion people on this earth. There's not going to be any going back to ma and pa farming for each individual, or splitting off into small groups, you know, isolated and growing all our own food, because yeah, sure, as long as we have electricity, we can make that work in certain places. But there are people living in deserts, people living in Siberia, people living all around the world who rely on imports. And if they can't get the imports they're getting from other places, then they're going to migrate. And this is just the way it is. Water crises are going to hit. And this is why I think that it is important to respect your society, to realize the awesomeness of it, to not see the negative side so much, but to realize it and recognize it and work on it, but see that there is a positive side too. So I guess I should expound on the positivity of it. Well, I know that a lot of people think the inventions and creations we've come up with are not exactly great things. I know there's a lot of people who are strongly opposed to vaccines, you know, still think that they cause autism, and this is all bullshit. This is all flawed studies from the 80s. I was very concerned about these because I have kids and I had to decide whether to give them vaccines or not, you know, and this was kind of the moment where I stepped out of the conspiracy realm. I realized these people are perpetuating a myth that could be harmful in the long run. And I use this vaccines example as a way for people, if you use that as an example of today, people are telling us to quit using all kinds of things, as well as methods, ideas, political structures, to abandon all these things. But in the long run, it may do a lot more harm than good. And the things are the way they are, not always because they work, but more often than not, they are the way they are because they work. And along comes Joe Blow, who's never been involved in anything political or remotely societal. He doesn't do anything for his community. He doesn't do anything to understand how the world really works, but he sits in his basement and he talks about how the government is taking away his rights and how, you know, he's being stripped of all his freedoms, and ignoring the fact that he's in full control of his destiny, especially if he's an American, you know. I mean, this is why I see society as the way I do, because I, as an individual, have the freedom and the option to do anything I want in this world, and I'm only limited by two things. You know, one, obviously my ability to complete these things, but B, my image of how others are holding me back. If I think that I'm being held down from becoming something great because the elite don't want me there, or because, because, let's say, truth tellers get killed or whatever, a lot of these people use these excuses. You just got to hide behind the shadows and just live your life in silence and solitude, in other words, or else be afraid you're going to get on some government list. I say that's complete nonsense. Speak out, say everything you have to say. They can put us all on a list. It doesn't matter, because they are us. And this is what I'm trying to get to. Don't let the government separate itself from you. Don't let you think that you are out of control of your destiny. And that means that society is run by us, the people. Not the governments, not the status, not the elite. They're running their little monetary systems, you see. They're running their little internal scams and using perpetual income slavery and tax brackets in order to use money to do things that are preposterous. But at the same, let's take the secret military, for example, our black ops programs. They're spending billions, if not trillions, of our dollars on programs that we have no idea what they are. And as Americans, we want to know, because we say we have the right to know. This is our tax money. On the other hand, most people probably don't want to know what's going on. And the question remains, is it to protect us, or is it just for special interest to gain? And this is why society seems to appear dirty, because we can't tell whether things are really being done for the good of the people or whether they're being done for the good of the few. And it seems like a lot of the things are being done for the good of the few. We just have to remember this one thing. Even if 1% of the people own 90% of the wealth, you have to remember that the wealth means nothing. The wealth is only what you can buy with it. It's all about resources. What resources do you have available? We are in control of the resources as the people. So we can step up and choose to not allow it to be raped or, plundered from our local areas. So when these companies come in and rape our areas and it seems like they're just destroying us, we can step up against that. Nestle recently bought and own now this rights to this water, a mineral water spring in the Columbia River Gorge, just a few miles from where I live. They're going to build a bottling plant out there. They're going to pump out our water, and then they're going to sell it back to us in the bottled form. Running trucks up and down the Columbia River in the nice pristine wilderness. Adding more damage to the roads, to the system, and they're probably not going to pay a damn bit of taxes to help it. Just like all these corporations do. Nestle recently they're getting sued finally by California because they've been using California to transport water across the land for like 2 decades without any land use permits. I mean, they're just sons of bitches. I'm using them as an example of a company that seems like society's falling apart, but you realize it's just a few greedy individuals. The people that work for Nestle aren't greedy or selfish. They're just trying to have a job. In fact, this is how Nestle got the space in the gorge. Everybody was opposed to it, and then they said, well, we create jobs for you. And the people in Cascade Locks don't have any jobs up there. So they said, well, it's going to create 50 jobs for our town. Well, sure. Meanwhile, stripping you of your resources that you could have. But the point is, somebody's always going to step up and take what they shouldn't have. People are always going to want to have more than their share. And our goal as individuals is to teach people, to teach our kids, to teach our friends. And having more doesn't mean more happiness. And I think we all know that now. Many more of us know that. I don't really meet very many people who want to grow up and be rich anymore. But when we were kids, that seemed to be the thing. I'm going to have a lot of money so I can buy all the stuff I want. And then you see how miserable some of these people are. And, it's just society. It's a beautiful thing. I guess I really haven't tackled the subject as much as I would have liked to, as far as what is society, because it's everything that we are. It's this hat that I'm wearing. It's the posters behind me. It's the table, the camera that I'm looking at, the different countries that make all the components for these things. And to stop and let down the image of what we think's happening and say, wait a minute, are most people really good? Are most people just trying to make it work and to help others? Do people help their neighbors when they're in need? And they do. And most people do. And this is why I think society is good. Because it's not built upon a lie, it's built by people, upon the best we know how. It's like we're building a really shitty spider web. We don't really quite know how to do it yet, but we're working on it. But I don't think there's any real answer to being able to, let's see, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no way to, I guess, conjoin this future with, like, our consciousness. Join our consciousness with, can't think of a way to word it. I guess what I'm trying to say is, how do we cope with our consciousness getting in the way of our natural urges? Or rather, does our consciousness prevent us from doing things naturally that may harm us more? It takes us away from our, in other words, if we didn't have intelligence, then we'd still be raping each other, okay? Because that's what animals do. You don't call it rape, it's just animals having sex. That's what they do. They pin each other down and they fuck and they leave, okay? And some of them stick with their couples and some of them don't, but it's not about really a relationship between the two for the sake of the two. Only in upper, as far as we know, there are birds that pair for life and certain animals that mate for life, penguins and whatnot, but my point is that humans have a lot to endure because we have different personalities and different interests. So of course we're going to argue, of course we're going to fight. With consciousness comes a debate, an argument, a smoothing out of the edges to say, hey, what's really important? And sometimes we don't know and our partner doesn't know, and then we look out at the world and say, what do they know? And then we say, okay, this is what society says, and it's easy to get sucked into that and say, oh wait, I'm just following society. But just remember, society sometimes knows best. Not always, but sometimes. And by the way we're going, it may look like we're falling apart, but it could be so much worse. It really could. I mean, we could have blown ourselves up decades ago. For some reason we didn't, and for some reason we're willing to persevere and pull through. We can't let a few weak-minded politicians ruin that for us. So, anyway, those are my thoughts, and have a great day.